Sell your idea to a company. That's what we're going to talk about in this video. I'm going to be honest up front so you don't have any unrealistic expectations. This is pretty rare, it doesn't happen that often. It's much more likely that a company will license your invention, that's something I'll talk about a bit later, but buying an invention, it's less common. And there's a few reasons for this. Generally, when a company buys an invention, you need to have some sales first. You need some, it needs to have a proven market, it needs to have a proven demand, it needs to be proven that it can be manufactured, and ideally you want some sales coming in, and then a company's more likely to buy it. Now, if you're really set on selling your invention, there are things you can do to put yourself in that position where a company is more likely to buy it. One of the best ones is a crowdfunding campaign. You can collect pre-sales for your invention and raise large amounts of money sometimes without having to manufacture it or set up distribution, retail relationships, etc. So if you were to do a successful crowdfunding campaign, that's a nice platform to then approach companies and say, hey, will you buy my invention? But I'd say it's still not a likely option. I mean, companies are in general risk averse and they don't like giving large amounts of money for something that they haven't sold a single unit of yet. And if you have really good sales, they're more likely to buy it. But going into the inventing process with the expectation of selling your invention outright probably isn't the best place to be. If it comes up, that's a nice option and you can take it. But in general, if you want to hand off your invention to someone and have them take control of it for you, licensing is a better option because it's lower risk for a company, so it's more palatable, they're more likely to accept it. Under this model, this route to market, they will essentially be renting your invention. They'll be renting your patent if you have one. They will manufacture your invention, they will market it, they will sell it, they will distribute it. And then for each unit they sell, they pay you a royalty, which is usually about 5% of the wholesale price. Now, this is a much easier pill to swallow for a company because they're paying you after they've made a sale. And it's very expensive for companies to launch an invention. It's usually hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars. So when they have to spend all that money and do all that work, they don't want to have to pay you a huge sum of money in addition. That's not good business for them. So you want to make it easy for them. I learned this lesson the hard way. I used to approach companies looking for a licensing deal. As we got talking and my invention started gaining some interest, the conversation would often go that way. They'd say, well, hey, do you want to sell this? Why don't we just buy this outright? And then we'd start bouncing some numbers around, and usually the deal would fizzle out pretty quickly. A fairly typical ballpark figure for a buyout is 3 years of licensing royalties. And the reason for that is the typical licensing contract length is about 5 to 7 years. So by buying it from you up front, they're paying you about half as much money, getting about a 50% discount. And then the benefit to you is that you're getting all that money up front. But it can be quite a large number when you add it up. I was in a position where I was close to licensing a combination padlock I designed. It had a new type of dial on the front that you could use a bit like one of those old iPods, and you'd spin it with your finger. They were very interested in licensing it. Conversations were going very well. The conversation then steered towards, well, hey, why don't we buy this? And they said, how much do you want? And I said, I was talking to the guy over the phone. He was a very nice guy called Joe. I said, well, a typical buyout is 3 to 5 years of royalties. And he did a quick sum on a piece of paper while we were talking over the phone. And he was like, okay, well, I think we can sell 100,000 units a year. Let's say we're paying you a royalty of 5%. Let's say the wholesale price of $5, blah, 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 blah. And then the number that popped out was about $150,000. And at this point, the company got spooked. They're like, oh, we don't want to give this guy $150,000. And the whole thing fizzled out. Now, more experienced me in that position, as soon as they said can we buy this outright? I'd say, no, I want to license this. And because I know that's much more likely to happen. When you go down the buyout route, companies get spooked, they're risk averse. Now, if they really insist upon it and dig their heels in, and that shows they're more keen on the buyout selling option, and maybe you do go down that route. You know, it does happen. It's just rare. But these days, I'd get them to make the first offer, and then if it's something ridiculous like $5,000, I wouldn't even make a counter offer. I'd just be like, no, let's go down the licensing route, because they're clearly not in a position to pay you $100,000, $150,000, whatever it's really worth. Now, what's interesting in that situation with the padlock is if they had licensed it from me and sold 100,000 units a year, over the course of the licensing contract, they might have paid me $300,000, $500,000, but it wouldn't have felt like they were paying me large sums of money, because they'd have been paying it to me in small chunks, once a quarter, 4 times a year, after they've made the sales. That's a lot more easy for management to accept, especially compared to paying me $150,000 up front for something that they haven't sold a single unit of yet. So, do companies buy inventions? Can you sell your invention? Yes. Is it likely? Probably not. Don't plan for it, expect it. Follow the licensing route or doing a crowdfunding campaign. If it shows up, great. But it's a great way to spook companies and sour deals and lose out on nice partnerships and relationships that could have been very profitable for the both of you. It's much more profitable and safe and happy for both of you to make it low risk and make it as easy for them as possible, and make it so that they don't have to pay you large sums of money up front. Okay, I hope this helped, and best of luck with your invention.